Welcome to day 9 of your quest. The principle we'll be discussing today focuses on an aspect of humanity's experience that's fundamental to the daily expression of nearly every person on Earth. To lead us off, here's today's guidance. An awakened species does not embrace a principle in its civilization that correlates with the concept that humans refer to as ownership. That's right, we're going to be talking today about ownership, about the right that we have to call anything our own. Let's explore this now. Do we really have that right? Do we really need to have such a right? What useful purpose does it serve? What's the point of owning anything? These are all good questions, and one might even ask, wait a minute, what's so non-functional? What's wrong? What's so bad about having something we can call our own? Seems to work just fine for most people. And not just most people who own most of this stuff, even most people who don't own most of this stuff want to own more. But of course this is true, because many of the people who do own most of this stuff are largely keeping it to themselves. The economic systems we've put into place on this planet virtually guarantees that. There are exceptions, of course, but they are exceptions, not the rule. We talked about hoarding before in this quest, when we explored the topic of insufficiency. It's easy to see that this is occurring, and it's easy to see that there is a direct connection between insufficiency and ownership as human concepts. The correlation is this: the higher the percentage of ownership by the smallest number of people, the higher the percentage of insufficiency in the highest number of people. You want proof? A recent report on wealth distribution showed that under 100 of the world's richest people hold more wealth than 3.5 billion. That's half of the world's population combined. Ownership does not inflate wealth distribution, it deflates it. Still, all of these inequalities and inequities aside, most people would not want to give up the idea of ever owning anything or ever being able to call anything their own. So how would human beings get to that point, even if everyone was, as we have been putting it, awakened? Well, first of all, we would understand that since we are all one, everything that exists belongs to everyone who exists. And how would that function as a practical matter? Everyone in our world can't till the soil or plant the seeds or harvest the crop and earn the income from every farm on the planet. Every person can't just walk into everyone else's house as if it was their own and just hang out there. First of all, there wouldn't be a space big enough, and even if there was, there wouldn't be any place for privacy. Is there to be no privacy? Is everything to be shared, including husbands, wives, children, and all possessions of any kind? How can that work? Again, very good and very fair questions. And Conversations with God, Book 4, Awaken the Species, answers them all. It says that when our civilization becomes a society of fully awakened individuals, the idea of ownership will be replaced by the concept of stewardship. Entities will mutually agree on who shall have stewardship of what, who shall partner with whom, who shall raise offspring, and who shall perform what functions in the physical world. No one will take anything or anyone that's being cared for by someone else through a stewardship or partnership agreement. Those who create offspring will not imagine that they own their offspring, and those who partner with others will not imagine that they own their partners, and those who accept stewardship of anything that's physical, be it land or some particular physical item, will not imagine that they own that item either. They would be clear that they're merely loving and caring for these other entities and these other items. No one would imagine, for instance, that because they are stewards of a particular parcel of the planet that they've embodied on, that they own the minerals and the water and whatever else is under that parcel down to the center of the earth. No one will imagine that they own the air or the sky above a particular parcel, as high as the sky can go. So there will be no arguments about how high is up or how far is down, or who owns the rights to whatever is up or down there. Such discussions would seem pointless and totally out of keeping with who we are when we understand that we are all one, and that no single entity or group of entities can possibly own a chunk of planet, much less what's high above or far beneath it. Currently, of course, we have arguments between governments and individuals all the time over air rights and water rights and mineral rights on our planet, raising the question, where does ownership begin and end? How high is up? How far down is down? To the center of the earth? Clear to the other side? As I said, we've had political struggles and have actually fought military battles over these seemingly silly questions. So the time must come when our treaties and our UN resolutions and our peace agreements and our climate accords finally give way to an overarching view, a global understanding of who we are in relationship to each other. It's been said that if one day we were suddenly visited and threatened by malevolent beings from outer space, we would, in about a quarter of a second, give up our need to claim individual rights and draw sharp-lined boundaries and our need to build fences and walls to declare what is ours and what will never and can never be yours. We would give that up for sure. And we would also, we are told, experience our oneness immediately were we confronted with such a common enemy. Well, we are being confronted with a common enemy. It is widespread pain and widespread suffering. Our common enemy is widespread poverty and widespread hardship. Our common enemy is widespread disease and widespread death. I've shared some statistics before in this program about the state of our world today, but I did not mention that 20.9 million women and children are being bought and sold into commercial sexual servitude every year, or that billions of people today have no access to health care. Most of us are not aware that 19,000 children die from preventable health issues such as malaria, diarrhea, and pneumonia. 19,000 children dying from those preventable diseases every year. No, I'm sorry, I mean every month. I'm sorry. I mean every day. $19,000 children dying every day. From preventable diseases. Could this occur on a planet of truly evolved beings? Do we consider ourselves evolved on this planet? By what measure? By what standard? But now, just for now, let's leave this topic of worldwide misery and bring today's subject down to a level that all of us who live in plenteousness and abundance can relate to. Business. How would this whole concept of non-ownership work in the economic realm? If people didn't own anything, how could they make a profit from anything? And if they didn't make a profit, how could they earn a living? The answer is that when humanity has fully awakened, it will take the word profit and give it a whole new definition. Humans will not consider it profitable if they benefit at the expense of another. They will not consider it acceptable if they win while another loses. And they especially will not consider it honorable if their winning causes another to lose. In this new human civilization, it would be understood that no one benefits unless everyone benefits. The lure of attachment and the seduction of possessions will disappear from our experience. We will live as if we owned nothing and are owned by nothing. We will clearly see that the biggest obstacle to self-realization and the root of all false identification is the concept of mine and yours, which generates the need for control. Let's notice something, shall we? Let's notice that when people are in love, the idea of personal and individual ownership all but disappears. What's mine and yours becomes what's ours. That's because love asks for, yearns for, pines for, indeed lusts for a melding, a meshing, a merging. The beauty and the wonder of love is all that it takes to end our isolation at last, giving way to oneness in a truly and purely loving melding, in a really wonderful marriage. The stuff in the house is not my stuff and your stuff. It's not my TV and your TV or your bookcase. The refrigerator doesn't belong to one person, while the dining room table belongs to another. Such an idea would seem silly to even contemplate, because the purpose of marriage and the reflection of love is manifest in the blending of lives and the ending of separation. For the people living in such a relationship, it's heaven. I promise you, it's heaven. And so we see that all we have to do to create heaven on earth for all of us is for all of us to love all of us. And then, as we do in all unconditionally loving relationships, we give up our need for and our claim to ownership of stuff and things. As many of you may be aware from my personal history, I spent a year of my life living on the street. I mean, I lived on the sidewalk for a year, not for a week, not for a tough month, not for a bad winter, for a year. I won't bother going here into how I reached that point, but I can tell you that this experience was remarkable in what it taught me and brought me in terms of wisdom and clarity about how life works. I can also tell you that this unique episode shifted my major life activity from gathering to distributing. All of my life until then, I had been gathering, reaching for this and reaching for that, striving for this and striving for that, yearning for this and yearning for that, collecting this and collecting that, until I had collected so much stuff that you could fill a warehouse with what I had accumulated. Then, through a unique series of events, including an automobile accident in which I broke my neck, I lost it all. Every single thing I had, every single thing I thought was mine, every single thing I owned, everything that I owned, I lost. Suddenly I owned nothing. Nothing except 2 pair of jeans, 3 shirts, 1 pair of shoes, and a backpack. Even my car, can you believe this? Even my car was stolen right off the street in front of the place where I was staying a few nights at a friend's house, couch sitting. They stole the car right out from under my nose. So I know all about ownership and the pointlessness of it. Now look, I'm not saying for a minute that none of us should own anything. What I am saying is that I've learned not to become attached to what I owned. Boy, have I learned that. And I've learned also not to be owned by it. And I've changed my major life activity from gathering to distributing. When I move through my days and nights, I'm not looking to see what, if anything, I can gather. I'm looking to see what, if anything, I can distribute. Can I distribute love? Can I distribute compassion? Can I distribute money? Can I distribute wisdom? Dare I think that I have the ability to do that? To do any of this? What if I thought my whole purpose for being alive was to distribute stuff? What if I never really needed to gather anything except maybe the courage to distribute everything? Did you hear? Let me say that again. I want you to catch what I just said. I said, what if I never really needed to gather anything except maybe to gather the courage to distribute everything? Can I gather the courage to act as the source rather than the seeker in my life? What if I decided that I really don't own anything except the me that I am? And what if the me that I am has nothing to do with the stuff I own? Nothing whatsoever, nothing at all. What if I didn't even have the right to claim that I owned it? Could I walk away from all of it and take me with me, totally together and completely intact? A wonderful spiritual teacher that I know named Mooji, who I've come to love as a friend, invites us to consider living in a breathtakingly daring way. Have no rights, he says, quietly and gently. Think about that for a moment. Please, just think about those words. Can you imagine living like that? Now, that doesn't mean that you literally have no rights as a human being, or that it's okay to treat everyone else as if they didn't have any rights, but it does invite us to consider, might this be a path? Might this idea be a way to move to a level of inner peace and mental tranquility and emotional serenity that we have never known before? What if you didn't think that you owned the mineral rights or the water rights beneath your property, down to the center of the earth? What if you didn't think that you have a right to tell people they can't play your grand piano because it was bequeathed to you by your third cousin on your mother's side? What if you didn't think that it's your right to say what you want to say, do what you want to do, be where you want to be, wear a t-shirt that says, "Don't tread on me," to prove it? What if you decided, hypothetically, that you have no rights at all? Could you see that as a useful, fascinating, and powerful tool with which to get through the day? Do you think it might in any way reduce the amount of impatience, upset, or emotional disturbance that you may experience in your life? I'm just wondering. I'm just asking. What if you just said to yourself, I have no rights? Just as an experiment. Wouldn't that be interesting? Okay, here's today's assignment. Number 1, look today at what you now own and may feel that you need to hold on to in order to feel secure, functional, or happy. Deeply explore how you ever felt secure, functional, and happy before you acquired that stuff. Ask yourself, how did you do that? Then write your reflections in your awakening journal. Number 2, as a mental game, pretend for the next 72 hours that your chief activity and prime purpose in life has nothing whatsoever to do with gathering and everything to do with distributing. Observe what, if anything, this produces in terms of altering your thoughts, words, and actions. Number 3, tomorrow morning and every morning thereafter, consciously create and intentionally move into the experience of stewardship and guardianship of anything and everything you now call your own. Check in with yourself before retiring each evening for the next 11 days, which is your remaining time in this quest, to see whether this has increased or decreased the feelings of love and caring, tenderness and carefulness that emanate from you. Give it a try. And remember, hypothetically, just for the experiment of it, you have no rights. That's it. That's your assignment. That's your challenge. That's your quest. And I'll see you tomorrow.